The first thing that we ask young people to consider is, what is the object? So of course it's a very easy question. Everyone can say it's a shoe. And the second question, of course, then to develop that is, so whose shoe? So who is the person behind this object? So obviously there are clues in terms of first of all, the size of the object. So it's fairly straightforward to see that this is a child's shoe. Developing that a little bit further, we could ask, well, how old is the child? We could think about the gender of the child. We don't know that for certain, but let's say it's a boy's shoe. And the child perhaps around 3 years old. Our students can tell us pretty quickly that this is from some decades ago. It's an old shoe, and they can tell that through the style of the shoe. The colour is faded, the shoe is crumpled, the eyelets are rusted. And turning the shoe over and looking at how the shoe is made, it's cobbled together, little nails, pins or tacks holding it in. Part of the heel here has come away and we can see a little bit more of the nail. The sole itself is made of leather in several pieces, and we get the sense that this was probably a handmade shoe. And the reason why we think this is not the first child to wear this shoe is because of the damage at the back. And here we can see that the shoe has been repaired. And it seems very unlikely that a 3 or 5-year-old child would have been wearing this shoe long enough to have caused enough damage to have it repaired. Most likely this is a home repair. You can imagine mother or father sitting down, perhaps at night while the child is sleeping, and carefully, very carefully, and we can see again the care and the attention to detail here in these little stitches. So this is someone who seems to be putting a lot of love into the repair. We don't know the child's name, we don't know where he was born, we don't know what language he spoke. The only other thing we know is the place that it was found, and this shoe was found in Auschwitz-Birkenau. The little boy himself could have come from so many places in Europe. He could have come from Poland, from Germany, from France, anywhere in German-occupied Europe. Again, if we're talking probabilities, then perhaps he's Hungarian. About a third of all the people murdered in Auschwitz, the Jews killed in Auschwitz, were Hungarian. So it's quite possible that he's a Hungarian Jewish boy. But again, this is tentative, we don't know this for sure. And when the train arrived after perhaps 3 or 4 days, the doors were unbolted and slid open, and very quickly maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people spilled out of that train, and the child wearing this shoe amongst them. And he would have been amongst the group, as the group were divided into two, he would have been with the women and the young children. The men and the older boys were in a separate group, and each of those two groups though was divided into 5 straight lines, and each line walked towards an SS doctor, a Nazi doctor, who looks at each person in turn and decides very quickly whether they go to the left or they go to the right. Some of them were being chosen for hard manual work. We don't know his first experience, but we do know he would have been chosen to walk with a larger group, maybe 90%, 80% of the people on that transport, probably not chosen for work. And then wearing this little shoe, perhaps he walked another kilometre or so down the train line until he reached a large building. And at that building was ushered perhaps downstairs into an underground dressing room, a changing room, where he'd be told to undress and to prepare for a shower. And these people were told, take off your shoes and tie your shoelaces together so they don't all get mixed up. And You can find your shoes again more quickly when you come back from your shower. This little boy and his family, his other members from his community perhaps, will push through into the next room, what looked like a shower room. They're all naked by this time. There's shower nozzles hanging from the ceiling, water pipes around the walls, and the doors would be shut, locked and sealed behind them. And the child who'd been wearing this shoe, of course, was now trapped not in a shower room but in a gas chamber. And maybe 20 minutes or so later, the room would be ventilated. Everyone who was trapped in that room had been murdered. This little boy's body would have been dragged outside and burned in the crematorium ovens of Auschwitz. And basically there's nothing left of him, no trace that this child ever lived. All we have is this little shoe which shows us that there was at least a child who lived for perhaps 3 or 4 years, and that child, we can be sure, was one of those murdered in Auschwitz-Birkenau.